Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sunrise House. My name is Daniel Dae Kim. Hey, good morning. We have an incredible lineup of panels for you today, starting with the cast and the producers of Shortcomings. Yes, please. And I also want to wish you a happy Lunar New Year. This is the year of the rabbit. But before we start today's festivities, I'm sure many of you are aware that last night in Randall Park, 10 people were killed and shot. Another 10 were wounded by a gunman at a Lunar New Year's festivity. This is something that, in the face of celebration and festivities, is worth noting, because this is the reason that Sunrise House and the Sunrise Collective was formed. We are here to celebrate our achievements, but also provide a place of community in the wake of tragedy like this. Several of our members who are working on the staff actually are from the area. This is a 65% Asian American community, a 27% Latino American community. This is the heart of why we exist. The three organizations that started Sunrise Collective, 3AD, Gold House, and the Asian American Foundation are here on the ground for anyone who needs any counseling and support. We are here for our community today. To the members of the media who are here in the room, we ask that you keep this story alive, that you report responsibly, accurately, and be sure to not let our stories go unheard. So as we continue today, let's be mindful of what is happening in the world around us and the reason why the Sunrise Collective and all of us are here in this room. Thank you very much, folks. Please welcome Shortcomings.
Welcome to the Shortcomings panel, moderated by stage journalist and founder of Diaspora, Dino-Ray Ramos. Previously an editor at Deadline reporting on inclusion, diversity, and representation, Dino launched the alternative media platform Diaspora in 2021 to spotlight underrepresented voices in entertainment media. Dino also created, produced, and hosted the Glad Media award-winning New Hollywood podcast and is currently the host and producer of the Problematic Fave podcast. His work has been featured in Vogue, Entertainment Tonight, and many more. Please welcome to the stage, Dino-Ray Ramos.
Hi, y'all. Thank y'all for coming out tonight, or today. I don't know. I walked around yesterday thinking it was Sunday. But thank y'all so much. And we're here to celebrate community. So let's do exactly that. You know, let's be there for each other and let's have a good time, y'all. So I'm here to moderate a panel for this movie coming out today called Shortcomings. Listen. Y'all are in for something with this movie, so I'm excited for y'all to see it, but more excited to talk to the wonderful cast and filmmaker of this film. So I want to welcome to the stage first, director Randall Park. Welcome, Randall. We also have cast member Sherry Cola, who plays Alice. We have Justin H. Justin H. Min, sorry, who plays Ben. And finally, we have Ali Maki, who plays Miko. Oh my God, everyone's coat game is on point. Y'all have a good color story. Did y'all plan this?
It's giving pumpkin spice. It's giving...
Completely unplanned.
Really?
Autumn
Completely.
365.
It's giving like autumnal. It's giving autumnal. Category is autumnal realness for Shortcomings.
Yes.
We got the memo.
But y'all, thank you so much for being on this panel. Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to talk about this film. So Randall, who in this audience is familiar with the graphic novel? Okay. It's a very interesting book. And Randall, why this as your feature directorial debut?
Well, the book came out in 2007, and at the time I was a struggling actor. And I remember it being at the Giant Robot store on Sawtelle Boulevard in Los Angeles.
Come on, giant robot.
And seeing this book and looking at the cover and just being kind of, oh, this looks really interesting. And reading Adrian Tomina's work and just being so, I mean, feeling all the emotions. Like, I thought it was so funny. I was angered by it. I was moved. I was saddened, just feeling everything. But the thing that resonated with me most was that it felt like a reflection of my life, in the sense that these were Asian American characters who were just kind of hanging out, you know, like hanging out in diners, getting into debates and arguments, walking on the street, you know, sitting in their apartments talking, and it just felt like very authentic to me in that way, and I saw a bit of myself in every character, and I felt seen in a way that I hadn't before in media at that time.
For Randall, and even the rest of the panel, feel free to chime in. Well, you already mentioned you were familiar with the graphic novel. For the cast, how familiar were y'all with the graphic novel before you signed on to the project?
I actually wasn't familiar with the novel until I was deeper into the process. And when I read Shortcomings, I was just so blown away at how ahead of its time it is. You know, and it came out in 2007, which is why when you watch the film, you're gonna feel like this is so overdue. You know, it's so modern, yet it feels like it's timeless, because this was 2007, it was so long ago. So I'm just thrilled that we're finally here, you know, because of the mainstream successes. You know, they have afforded us a movie like this that's so simple, such a slice of life, and could not be less going on in this movie. It's just conversations, you know, and just raw, imperfect humans that happen to be Asian. So the graphic novel was really special. Yeah, it's cool to have a little graphic novel version of us, you know?
Yeah, word. Justin?
I was familiar with Adrian's work primarily as a cartoonist, because I'm an avid reader of The New Yorker and I had seen a lot of his covers. I did not realize that he had such an illustrious career as a graphic novelist. And similar to Sherry, I did not know about Shortcomings until I was deep into the process. But I picked it up and read it in a few hours and just immediately was struck by how timely it felt, even though it was written so long ago, and how relevant a lot of these themes are today. And the simplicity of the characters and these people who just happen to be Asian American navigating the world is something that really excited me, and just an honor and joy to be a part of this story.
And Allie?
Yeah, it was kind of in the same boat as everyone here. I actually got sent the script, and someone was like, I think you need to read this. And when I opened it, I was just so in shock, because it's very rare, if ever, I've seen a project filled with Japanese American characters, which is so special to me. I'm fourth generation Japanese American, and also to find out about Adrian's work, because I did not know about him. So I immediately got the book on Amazon, and I read it all in one day, and I was like, wait, these are the things we're talking about now. Miko says the things that I would say, and I know so many people who have said the things Ben has said. So I just instantly became a fan, and it was so special to learn more about him and his work.
Yeah. After watching it, I was just like, talking to Randall before, I was like, oh my God, am I Ben? But I was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, you texted me that.
Yeah, I texted you. I was like, am I Ben? But then I was like, oh, merch idea. You know, I'm a Ben, I'm a Miko, I'm an Alice. I'll take a cut of that.
No,
But
and
Randall, how has your work in TV kind of informed your approach as a filmmaker?
I mean, I don't know.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's just keep it pushing. No,
I mean, just from, well, number one, being on sets and seeing the great thing about being on shows, especially as a regular, is that you work with different directors all the time, and you see different directing styles, and you see, you feel different vibes, and for me, it was always like, oh gosh, the best vibes are good vibes, positive vibes, warm, loving sets, and so that was a priority for me. On top of all the the creative, specific filmmaking stuff, was just to hire nice people, and make sure that everybody supported each other, was professional. And also good at what they do, but it really was important to me that we hire good, kind people, and these are like the best people. So it was really a fun experience.
Well, Randall Park deserves the world, and he really sets the
Work.
Literally.
Work.
The most incredible person.
I am so happy.
Stick to the script.
I'm joking. Justin, I know a lot of actors say they really shouldn't judge their characters, but goddamn, Ben, we have to talk about Ben. For those who will see it, you'll know what I mean. It feels like it would be kind of hard not to judge Ben, but how was it even like playing someone like him, and did it bring something out of you that you didn't expect?
It wasn't that difficult to play Ben because I am Ben.
Work!
Before.
Before therapy. Thankfully, thousands of dollars later, maybe a slightly more evolved version of that character. But I think this room, you understand, I mean, as you will see in the movie, he's someone who's wrought with so much insecurity and perfectionism, and that manifests itself into a sort of cynicism and a hypercritical eye. And that's me. I mean, when I started off on this creative journey, I was so afraid of my own creative expression. I was so overwhelmed by my insecurities that all I could do was judge those people around me and judge the work. I mean, Brene Brown says it best,
Come on, Brene Brown.
Come on,
Shout
Brene
out.
Brown.
Shout out.
So it wasn't that hard to really connect to him because he is, I think, in all of us as creatives in some shape or form. So, yeah.
Brene Brown, you are enough. I don't know if you've seen that TED Talk. Watch it. It's really good. For Ali, Miko is almost like Ben when it comes to her rigidity. From what I, y'all, let's just say y'all are a mess. That couple's a mess. But also, her rigidity and likability is almost like reflects Ben in this interesting way. But how do you think she reflects kind of this modern millennial Gen Z, Gen X-ish, this like really amalgamation of this, modern Asian woman?
Wow, you brought all the generations into
We have
Gen
to,
X,
because
millennial,
at this
Gen
point
Z.
we're just like, oh well, we're just trying. That's what we're the trying generation, yeah. But like, how do you think she reflects?
Yeah.
People who will watch the film eventually.
I absolutely loved playing Miko, and I fell in love with her from the first time that I read the graphic novel, mainly because she is so flawed, but still has this sense of likability. And Randall and I talked a lot about, or Randall expressed to me, like, we want to make sure that all these characters, but Miko as well, still retains a sense of likability, and that it isn't like, why would she do some of the things that she does in this movie? But I think it's so important to show that, because I think only from my perspective as an Asian American woman, I feel this sense of perfectionism my whole life, that I'm not really allowed to have an opinion, and if I do, it has to be perfect and it has to please everyone. And I think Miko's dealing with a lot of that, especially in a relationship with Ben, where they're really clashing, and he's not always supportive of the things that I'm passionate in doing. And I think it's very powerful that in this movie she has this sort of awakening, and not a picture perfect awakening. And I think that's what's most important, is that it is a flawed awakening, which is important to show, especially for Asian American women, that we don't have to be perfect. There's no right way to do this. And her coming out and finally standing up for herself for the first time can be really imperfect. And I think that's the most fascinating part of her journey.
Yeah, like completing that trifecta of mess is Alice.
This is a throuple.
Yeah, but in this interesting way, I kind of saw her as this guide for Ben, because Ben is like the messiest. Sorry, this is the theme is mess. Category is mess.
Absolutely.
No, but it's like she's like, it feels like she's the one who has her shit together, but she's probably, she does not. But also shout out to Sonia, who plays your partner. Oh God,
Sonoya.
yeah, Sonoya.
Right.
Sorry,
Really?
Sonoya.
No, that was so much fun. I wish she was here. Missing you, Sonoya.
Yeah, shout out. But and it's also, we seldom get to see that with queer Asian characters. We seldom get to see queer Asian characters, period, in a light where it isn't so what the mainstream defines as
Right.
queer. But how did your own experience informed your performance of Alice?
Well, there's definitely a lot of overlap with me and Alice. The queerness, the Asianness, the womanness, the loudness, the obnoxiousness, the recklessness, and the messiness. Honestly, that is the theme here because it's so human. I think a lot of the characters in this movie, we're stuck in our ways, and we want better. We want to evolve, but sometimes we lash out of insecurity, out of complacency. I think that's very much the theme of this movie, just growing and changing. And, the relationship between Alice and Ben, it is very codependent, and to a fault, and without spoiling too much, there's just a lot of learning to kind of tolerate the people you've been friends for so long with, because at a certain point it becomes like quantity over quality. You've known each other for years and years, but it's like, you kind of like rebuild that as well in this film in a lot of ways. It's just very human. But I think with Alice, it's the most liberated version I've ever played of myself, because there's so much crossover and I've never gotten to do that. So it's just, it's so liberating to see a character like this that's just so real and has all these layers and checks all of these boxes in an authentic way. It's not on the nose. Once again, we just happen to be Asian because it's just so universal, this film.
Yeah, so let's get deeper into all of this. The movie is going to inevitably stir up a lot of conversation about representation, specifically Asian American representation, queer representation on film and TV, the dynamics of interracial dating, fetishization of Asians, particularly Asian women, mental health. It's gonna check a lot of boxes, and y'all are gonna walk out feeling some kind of way, and you just gotta go roll with it. Just keep it pushing. But what are some of the themes all of y'all leaned on when through performances? Well, you're the filmmaker, so you probably were leaning on all of them. But like, how did you just even navigate? Because it's a lot. There's a lot of nuance, and there's a lot of conversations that get started, and it almost leaves it up to the audience, like, oh, now what are you going to do, kind of thing. How did y'all kind of navigate that to where it's like, oh, you don't want to kind of influence the decision of the audience too much, but you want to tell this good, rich story? Just how did you? It just seemed like a really difficult, because y'all were touching on a lot. I'm not lying.
Yeah.
How did you just you were juggling? How did you manage it? Yeah, go first, Randall.
Well, for me, I think this. I wanted, what attracted me about the story was how real it felt, and I really wanted to be our North Star, just to keep things as real as possible. It's a comedy drama. There's a lot of humor in it, but I wanted it to feel real, and because of that, I wanted them to really own their characters, which they do, and I want the specificity to be there. I didn't want this to be. I didn't want the characters to be for everyone. I didn't want the movie to be for everyone. I wanted just to be very honed in on the specifics of these characters and their worlds. And in that regards, I think, these actors were just so magnificent, and the whole cast up and down. But yeah, there's a lot.
I'd say this movie is not about ideas or themes, even though those things come up, and even though those will be conversations that are had after the movie ends. For us, we never really wanted to focus that much on that, because we wanted to focus on each of our characters and make sure that this was about these specific people and the circumstances that they're navigating through. And so when I got to be dropped into a scene with Sherry or Allie, we weren't thinking, how is this going to look like on screen, or what will people say about interracial dating or Asian representation. It was, let's be truthful and authentic to this moment. And Randall made sure that we were, he helmed that ship and made sure that we were doing that as well.
100%, because every character is problematic in their own way. And sometimes when we play characters, we think like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Would I say that? Like, well, this character would. And you kind of see that evolution and that arc within each individual character growing in that way. And, I think, yeah, we touch on so many themes. You're right, we're juggling. We're on unicycles, we're taming lions here. And for Alice, I think what I noticed the most with her character is how different she is with each person, how different she is with Ben, that relationship, how different she is with her parents, how different she is with her booty calls. You know what I mean?
Come on, I relate.
She's a fuck girl. She's a fuck girl. But it just shows that we're so different, and we can be chameleons, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. So I think it was very specific to these characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with all of you guys. And this is a character-driven piece, first and foremost, I think. And this is actually the first time, I think, that I was able to break down a character from my exact own worldview and perspective, which I see now how powerful that is, and something that I would love more of, because she is, a third or fourth generation Japanese American, which is very specific and has its own identity to it that I haven't really been able to kind of like place a character before from, like even imbuing concepts like Enryo, which is a Japanese concept that's like you kind of put others not in front of you or ahead of you, but sort of, it's like ultimate politeness. And I think that those type of concepts, being able to put them in her psyche, made me understand why she kind of made some of the decisions she did, and why maybe it was after years and years of feeling repressed or not able to express herself. And I think this movie, like after we watched it for the first time, it leaves you feeling everything, and a little bit of uncomfortableness, which I think is awesome. Like, I mean, we were talking about with Randall, like, we're like, we don't know what to feel, but we feel everything, which I think is what a movie should do.
Well, it was such a foreign feeling because we've never had a movie like this, and it felt cringy at times, like it felt just like it's putting so many things on blast. It's having these tough conversations, like just, it says what we're often thinking.
Work.
And
or you'll be like, am I Ben? Am I Miko? Oh no.
It feels like a personal attack. It will definitely feel like that, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the conversations in the movie are conversations in the community, in amongst my friends. These are things that are going back to like wanting it to feel real. It's like these are things that are true, and not necessarily the opinions, but the conversations, and again, like for me, it's like there's a lot of things that people are going to want to talk about. There's a lot of things but ultimately, it's a movie about change, and do we have to change with the world around us? Like, as the world changes, do we have to change with it? As our friends change and grow, do we have to change with them? I mean, that's what it's ultimately about. And anything messy and anything potentially controversial or the shiny stuff. I mean, it really goes back to that. Like, can these people change and become better? Yeah. And I think that's pretty, universal and what resonated with me.
Yeah, I think, we can. I think personally, I think we're in this spot in diversity where we are. It's great that we have this film, and I wish that. Yes, it's about messy people who happen to be Asian, but I would say, unfortunately, Hollywood would see this as an Asian movie. Let's just call a spade there. But in 2002, a movie premiered here called Better Luck Tomorrow, which I don't know if anyone who was working on publicity, is David Magdell here? Because he was working on publicity on that. Annalie Paulo, who was at 42 West Rand, she was working on that. That was a major watershed moment. And I remember you could look this clip up on YouTube where Roger Ebert is defending the film against a critic. Look it up. It's a very phenomenal moment. But now we're in 2023. Shortcomings this year. And we have Jamajaya. We have Joyland, which is an Asian American, but it's an Asian story. But we have a wealth. But besides being an all-Asian American cast, what parallels do you see between Better Luck Tomorrow and Shortcomings when it comes to kind of shaking up the idea of what Hollywood thinks Asian is?
We talked a lot about Better Luck Tomorrow. That was a very important part of this lineage and this process. I mean, so to get more specific, at that screening here at Sundance, when they screened Better Luck Tomorrow, a critic stood up and was like, "How can you make? It's irresponsible." To the filmmakers he was talking to, it's irresponsible for you to have characters like this, because the characters were they were high school students who end up cheating, making money off of cheating, and then eventually get into darker crimes. And so the critic was like, "How can you do that to your own people?" This was a white critic.
Of course. No, it was me, guys.
And Roger Ebert stood up and was like, "What are you saying? They could make a movie about whatever the hell they want to make. They don't have a responsibility to be, whatever you want them to be, or whatever you feel like." However you feel like a community should act on film, and I thought a lot about. That's for Roger Ebert. That's not for me.
Yes.
But I feel like with our movie, yes, every character is a mess, as we say. Every character is flawed, and much like in Better Luck Tomorrow. Also, it's an Asian American film, but it doesn't have those cultural markers that we are familiar with in Asian American film. Usually, and this is not a bad thing. It's actually a great thing to see stories about intergenerational conflict and going back to the motherland and finding yourself, and those things are important stories to tell and great. And food. There's a lot of food in Asian, and a dumpling making scene. Always Be My Maybe had that. And I think those are important to see, and I love seeing that stuff. It makes me feel seen. But Better Luck Tomorrow didn't have that, So I think some critics and some people felt uncomfortable with that. What does this movie mean, And our movie doesn't have. I mean, it has a little about that, but the story doesn't center on that. And I think because we're in a time where we are kind of stepping out of this scarcity of narrative, hopefully, we're able to tell more stories like this and other kinds of stories, and that's exciting to me. And I think we owe Better Luck Tomorrow, a big credit for being a part of that. On top of Crazy Rich Asians, on top of Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's all like, I see it as we're all like together on this like path,
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to add to that. I've been saying, all of us are killing it in the industry how we can in our different corners, and I see it as a group project. There's no more competition. We're lifting each other up because of the fight that we've really, built in the last 2-3 years due to trauma bonding. Honestly, this morning being an example, like things have really brought us together more and more as the years go on, and it's really beautiful to see us all kind of in it together and having each other's backs, and just it's a group project. We have this common goal of just making it and creating art that reflects our experiences and points of view. But back to Better Luck Tomorrow, I think a big crossover is how niche the movies are, because Better Luck Tomorrow is rebellious teenagers that get into trouble, happen to be Asian. We are people in our 20s that are in mental and emotional limbo, happen to be Asian, and I think, once again, because of the mainstream films that have afforded us these slice of life films, I think it's really special that now we can tell kind of just the human aspect of it, and not have to have a big dumpling scene or like some coming to America situation, because we have seen that, and that is very important, but it's nice to also see just this day-to-day one-on-one heart-to-heart stuff.
Yeah, I think the evolution there is Better Luck Tomorrow is one of my favorite films of all time. It's still, unfortunately, unfortunately is the wrong word, but it revolves around a sensationalized event. And I feel like for the longest time, in order for our stories to be told and produced in Hollywood, we would have to have these sensational events, whether it's intergenerational trauma, as Randall was talking about, it's, moving back from the motherland. Because I think people didn't realize that Asians, in their mundaneness, in their ordinary lives, could be interesting enough to see on screen. Yeah. So it is such a joy to have what I consider a very mundane look into how we live, and yet still be so interesting and full of life, because that's who we are as a community and as a people.
Yeah, to build upon that, Justin, that's so beautiful, is I think some of my favorite scenes with you were when we were just walking down the streets of New York, letting the city happen, and just talking about things that our characters felt and were important to us. And I mean, let's face it, we're still being dehumanized, and that all comes from the characters that we're able to play or not able to play. And I think, I kind of grew up in the industry. I came when I was a teenager, and I remember thinking back when I was younger that I'm only allowed to play one trait, and that's really all that I'll ever be allowed to do, and I wasn't able to expand beyond that, of like, hey, you love math, like that's your trait, or hey, you have an accent, that's your thing, you have glasses, that's your thing, like, or the kung fu, that's your thing. And I see how limiting that was, and it like bled into my own real life of like, I'm just one thing, and that's all I'm good for. So it's so important, especially what has unfortunately happened last night or yesterday. It's just vital for our just basic, humanity to be seen as human.
I'm sorry, we could just talk about this all day.
Yeah.
We've been, kind of defined by others for so long. People have forced these definitions on us, whether it be society, whether it be Hollywood. I feel like we're finally reclaiming our own identities, and, single-handedly with this kind of clump of years, what's the word I'm looking for? Redefining, reclaiming. Shifting.
Let's go.
The narrative, you know what I mean, for us as a community. So this kind of movie really helps that, And
I think that if that means people being uncomfortable, like that is fine, and we have to be okay with that.
I feel like this industry, this is Sunrise House, we could talk about this.
We're in a safe space. Don't say anything outside. I will find you.
Everyone signed an NDA, right?
I feel like the industry, which is predominantly white people running it, they're okay at this point in time with, we value diversity and for example Asian like projects, but you have to give us something that we can't do ourselves, right? You have to give us the immigrant story, because we don't have that, right? You have to give us stories about going back to dumplings. We don't do dumplings, but we want to see you do that, because we want to peek. We want to peek into how you live. You know, give us something that we can't do. But walking, talking, hanging out in diners, we got that. You don't got to do that. You know, you don't have to just hang out and talk and be everyday people, because we got that. Noah Baumbach does that. One of my favorite filmmakers.
Listen, I have opinions, but we will talk about that later.
One of my favorites. He does that. You don't got to do that. You know, but thank God for independent film, right? And that's what Better Luck Tomorrow started as. It's like because we could do that on our own, you know. Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, but before we go, I will say that I've interviewed everyone on this panel before, and sometime in my career, and I texted Allie after I watched this, and I was all, and actually Sherry too. Justin, I don't have your number. And Randall, I think you heard from me, and I was just like, what I enjoyed is whatever you think about this movie, whatever. Seeing all these people get to do what they want to do in a safe space, letting them spread their wings and fully discover who they are as artists, I just like appreciated that so much. Like to see, I actually cried when I watched it. Like also shout out to Jacob, to Mike in it, seeing these like the Filipino power, you know, just seeing them, even Tavi. It was like. I think I was like, oh, what this movie is saying is very important. I know what it's doing, and I hope y'all get it too. And I really want to go to like that old proverb, especially in the Asian community. When you move alone, you move faster. When you move together, you move farther. So please think of that when we are talking about community stuff. So I want to thank Randall, Sherry, Justin, Allie. I want to thank all y'all for coming out. Watch Shortcomings. It's a hot ticket, y'all.
Thank you, Sunrise Collective.
Yes, thank you, Sunrise House. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Are you sure you didn't plan this? Did you all plan this color story?
Oh, this is coincidental. This is how aligned we are.
Yeah. That's the breaking news from this
thank
panel,
you
the
so much.
wardrobe.
We'd like to ask everyone to please exit the dining room as we will be setting for our next panel. Thank you for joining the Shortcomings panel, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.